and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by Prizepicks.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. I am Sherrod Blakely, and I'm joined by Josue Pavon of Clutch Points. As you can probably tell, Josue is in OKC, which is the team that he's covered. He's trying to do the unthinkable, back-to-back championships.
Yeah, man.
Teams. Look at you.
It's unbelievable. Game 7, we're here, Sherrod. You know, right before you hit record, we're both very excited, obviously, for this huge matchup. But yeah, man, it's been a hell of a ride this entire season, and it all comes down to this final practice for both of these teams. Final game, Game 7, man. I can't wait.
Absolutely, and we'll get into all the goods of this game and going forward. But before we do that, I want to just remind folks that they're listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find more Big Three NBA podcast content, past and present, as well as Josue Pavon and some of the work that he has done over the years and months and days with the CLNS Media Network, including content data included, but it's not limited to the good old-fashioned Garden Report, which is our bread and butter.
Yes, sir.
Immediately after every Celtics game. We don't got too many right now. In fact, we have none right now, but that's okay. The season will be here before you know it, and we will be back up and at it, bringing you the best and greatest content that you can find on the Boston Celtics. And if that's the team that you're into, we have all this happening with them. So CLNS Media Network has you covered and then some. Now, let's get to the action at hand, and that is we've got a Game 7, as Josue pointed out, and the Game 7 would not have been possible if not for a pretty thorough win/beatdown, you can say, that the Pacers OKC to force a Game 7. Obi Toppin came up big. Pascal Siakam came up big. McConnell off the bench came up big. Shea SGA was good, not great. Couple guys were good, not great. And I guess just the thing that jumps out to me at this point is if you are OKC and you're clearly the heavy favorite from the beginning of this series, what went wrong in Game 6? Because the one thing I keep hearing from people who were at the game and watched the game was that Oklahoma City just didn't seem to have that edge, that fire, that kind of that taste that we're on the cusp of shutting this thing down. They just seemed like they were kind of just coasting out there.
Yeah, man, the Pacers just wanted it more. That's just what it looked like. I mean, outside, I guess, maybe the first minute or so, I mean, the Pacers, obviously, you got the crowd behind them. They don't want their season to end, obviously. And, you know, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I just felt like they got their first experience of how hard it is to close out the NBA Finals on the road. Not just the playoff series, but the NBA Finals on the road. And that's a lot of what these guys have been talking about going into Game 7, how difficult it is and how different it is at this stage. But, yeah, man, I just thought the Pacers just overall just fought. You know, it really came down to effort, and a lot of that effort happened on the defensive end of the floor, which rattled the Oklahoma City Thunder, which rattled the head of the snake and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, man. I mean, uncharacteristic, as Mark Dagnall said, was the term to use when describing this game, not just the team, but SGA. I mean, 8 turnovers. Man, he nearly had half of the Thunder's turnovers. I think it was 20, 21 or so, and that's just really unlike him. That's actually a career or season high. He's never done that before, you know, to turn the ball over that many times. And of course, in that big moment where I felt like the Indiana Pacers just went out there, they did what they had to do in the sense of, you know, saving their season, but also they did it in a way that really like that's how you stop the Thunder. Like when you force SGA to cough up that many turnovers, and when you rattle, you know, his offensive rhythm in the way that they did, it's a trickle down effect in the same way that it works, you know, when the defense is playing at an ultimate level in the Thunder, right? And SGA is going. When SGA is going, everyone else follows suit. So I just think Rick Carlisle has done a terrific job, especially in Game 6, which was, in my opinion, the best performance we've seen from this Pacers team in doing that. And it wasn't in, you know, forcing him to throwing at him the full court pressure, but rather letting him get it up towards like around the logo and applying the pressure there, where SGA gets comfortable sometimes in the paint or at least in the teeth of the defense with his back turned. Then came the double team. You know, a lot of those instances, it just showed how much these guys have zeroed in onto his tendencies, onto how, you know, what he needs to comfortable out there, and just how that resonates with the rest of the squad. Taking out Chet Holmgren, I think, was a big part of that. Maybe some of his health plays a part as well, but again, making him essentially a non-factor really changes things for what the Thunder are trying to do on offense. And even though it was relatively close, heading into that second quarter, they blew the doors open. I felt like, going into halftime, and especially after, which is, to use the word again, very uncharacteristic of the Thunder to come out of halftime and just go 0 for 5 from deep, or unable to just click offensively. Where in that spot where Daigneault felt like they really had a chance to get back into the game, and then going into the fourth quarter, it was all Indy.
Yeah, you touched a little bit there on Rick Carlisle, and we'll talk more about Rick later, because everyone who has been listening to this podcast over the last couple of years knows that Rick Carlisle's my guy. Rick Carlisle is one of my favorite all-time coaches, because the thing that I tell people all the time about him, and we'll talk more about this later, but I've never been around a coach who consistently does the most with the least. When his roster seems like it's not on par with someone else's, Rick's like, I got something for you. I got some, and he will. We're going to talk more about Rick later, because I've lots to say about Rick. But before we go down that road, you touched on some of the issues that went wrong for the Thunder. The turnovers, Shea not getting to his flow, no Chet. When you look at the problems that Indiana caused, is there a sense among the Thunder that most, if not all, of those problems are easily fixable ones?
I think so. And I think that's why you saw that confidence, or at least the way they were talking after the game about turning things around in Game 7. Because this team they do a really good job of going back, or getting back to zero, as they say. It's been an ongoing saying. Daigneault's got a handful of them, but that's definitely one of them. The 0-0 mentality, win or lose, going into the next game and just forgetting what happened in the last game. But of course, also taking with you, the shortcomings and making sure that they don't happen again. So I think that this team obviously historically has done an incredible job of doing that. I mean, shoot, what were they? 16-4 in the regular season after losses. They're 6-0 during the postseason, after losses. So like they generally respond in a big way after losses. Not just sometimes it's a blowout, and not to say that's going to happen here in Game 7, but I think that's why they had that confidence. And coming back here at the Paycom Center, they feel really good about their chances. However, there's one team that could disrupt that. There's one team that could shock the world and give them their first postseason back-to-back L's. Is this team, the Indiana Pacers. And of course, Pascal Siakam has a lot to do with that. You can even say guys off the bench like TJ McConnell has a lot to do with that. And of course, the head of the snake, the guy who put together a heck of a performance, hobbled, whatever people on social media want to say about his damn injury, hobbled or not, quote unquote, Halliburton brought it, man. And especially from a facilitating standpoint, and of course, hitting those big shots. I think that all plays a part if the Pacers were able to shock the world here in Game 7 throughout, essentially the second half, and trying to preserve Halliburton as well to set out that big moment. I mean, the fact that he only played 20 minutes, I think is big. He talked to us about that about 15 minutes ago, actually, how his recovery, that really helped in his recovery, and obviously, having the extra day between 6 and 7, that goes a long way, especially when we're talking Game 7, Sherrod, right? Give it everything you got. There is no tomorrow. This is it. So yeah, man, I would say flip a coin as to who's going to win this. However, because of what the Oklahoma City Thunder have taught us all season long, they should win this game. But again, this is the one team that could shock them, and I think they know that.
Yeah, and you definitely expect to see the best that OKC has to offer, at least better focus and intensity and intention with what they do. Right. But at the same time,
the effort for sure.
Right. The Pacers have really just kind of befuddled us throughout this entire postseason run, seemingly figuring out what they need to do to move on, whether it's win a big game, get a Aaron Nesmith going off like he's Ray Allen, Pascal Siakam, just doing amazing things, looking very much like, the guy that won a championship, with the Toronto Raptors. When we first started thinking of him as this guy, Spicy P. Yes, we still got the Spicy P on lockdown.
You still got it. That's what's up. Look at you.
We still got it, and he still has it, clearly. But before we go any further, just want to, just for those listening to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and lots of other great Celtics content. And please make sure to turn on your notifications so that you know the instant a new video like this one will be dropping. Now, we're talking a lot about, game 6 / looking ahead to game 7. And Josue, as someone who's covered these title runs before, you did it last year with the Celtics, you're doing it now at OKC. There's always like that game 7 hero or heroes. Now, there are certain guys, and these are two separate questions. I'm going to ask you them separately, but there are guys who pretty much do what they do. And then there are guys who stand out, who step their game up. First, I want to hear who are a couple guys that you think, if their team is going to win, they have to stand out. They have to play basically above and beyond what they normally do. Who are a couple guys that come to mind when you think about that?
For the Thunder, I'll definitely say Chet Holmgren, just because of what he means to this team on both ends of the floor, and just how the Pacers have a really hard time of keeping their offensive rhythm going when he's protecting the rim and when he's just standing out, on both ends. And I'm not just talking about when I'm talking about his offense, right? I'm not necessarily looking at the fact he's shooting 24% from three or whatever. I mean, yeah, that 3-point shot, can really extend the defense, but that's just not really like his bread and butter. I just think it's more of like putting the ball on the floor, getting to the rim. So I think that he has to stand out for sure in this game. And then I'm going to say I'm looking at one of these guards, whether it's a Lou Dort or Aaron Wiggins. And I'm probably going to lean towards more Lou Dort. His defense isn't something I'm concerned about going into game 7. But, man, when he gets going from deep, I mean, offensively, he can really create the separation that this team needs to keep the Pacers at bay. And he's done that so many times throughout this season. And I feel like he's due. However, with that being said, the other side of your question here, I feel the same way about Aaron Nesmith, right? I'm not expecting him to go, pretend like this is MSG and score 5 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. However, I do think that he has the confidence to not only do something like that, but the numbers back it up. I mean, he's shooting over 40% from three in this series. I feel like because of the other guys and just how explosive the offense was in game 6, he didn't have to do that, but I feel like he was almost like it felt like it was going that way when he drained a couple of them, and especially when the game had started initially, and it looked like they were looking for him. It looked like they were trying to get his offense going from the jump. So I think we'll see something similar in game 7, and I think it happens. I again, not like a historic 3-point shooting game, but I just think he's going to be a constant thorn on the side of this Thunder team, Thunder defense.
Now, when you talk about Aaron Nesmith, you can't help but think about, damn, he was with the Celtics, and he cut him loose. When you think about just where he's at now, and you think about where he was in Boston, how much of a surprise has his play been to you to see where he's at now versus where he was when he was a Celtic? Because he clearly is not the same player.
No, he's clearly not the same player, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm surprised. I'd probably say very surprised, honestly, Sherrod, because I wasn't quite sure if Nesmith was going to be an everyday starter on a team that's making the run to the NBA Finals. I mean, we're talking 3 years removed, I guess, from his last season with the Celtics. However, just the way he clicks on this offense and the way he just knows what to do defensively and guarding multiple positions, I feel like it's been a humongous role for this Pacers team. I'm glad you brought this up, man. I had a great conversation with Rick Carlisle one-on-one about Nesmith on a story I was working on after having a conversation with Nesmith's father, who, of course, has seen it up close and from behind the scenes, and he didn't hold back. Sherrod, he was like, man, he was disappointed. He was very disappointed when the Celtics traded him, and he had to start off this new chapter. But he right away, as Carlisle pointed out, wanted to adapt, wanted to be a part of something, is the way Carlisle put it. And that was his first step, was going to Summer League. And it cracked me up because Carlisle was like, oh, yeah, you want to go? Yeah, we'll go. We'll check it out. He's like, no, Coach, I want to play. And that it really sent the right message to Carlisle, who was eager to have him into the fold because of his abilities, and also, most importantly, because of his experience with the Celtics. The fact that he had to defend Tatum's and the Jaylen Browns of the world, the fact that he was, on a team that made it all the way to the NBA Finals at such a young age. And you couple that with his knack for knowledge and his knack for wanting to adapt and do whatever it takes. He saw a perfect fit. And so he's probably the least surprised, Carlisle, right, of what Nesmith has become. But I'll be honest and say, yeah, I'm definitely surprised seeing him become the guy he is today compared to who we covered, back in 2022, his first couple of years in the NBA with the Celtics.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will talk a little bit more about my good friend Rick Carlisle in a minute. But first,
he keeps finding his way back into this, man. Yeah, man, he's a big part of it. Man.
You know that. But first, I want to just really talk about our good friends over at Prizepicks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs is coming to an end real soon, but you still cash in on it with Prizepicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prizepicks lineup, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. With Prizepicks, you can obviously mix and match your player projections from different sports like baseball, hockey, or actually baseball, esports, and much, much more. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prizepicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And how you get in is very simple. You just download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. And when you talk about running game, my man Rick Carlisle is running some mad game right now with the Indiana. Again, no secret, I'm a huge Rick Carlisle fan, and Rick is doing what I know Rick Carlisle teams do. But in all seriousness, Josue, I mean, you look at the opposite end of the bench, and it's not like he's going against a guy that hasn't done some nice things as well. How do you think the coaching matchup has played out in this series thus far?
Man, it's interesting because, Carlisle, I feel like is getting better throughout the series. And Dagnall, I feel like is getting better throughout the series. And I feel like Carlisle is just like going deeper into his bag as the series progresses, So it's interesting. I mean, I'm definitely going to give the edge to Carlisle, especially just the way he set the tone in game one. And, I feel like just the fact that Dagnall put out a starting five in that game, the first one we hadn't seen the entire postseason. I feel like he was trying to get one up on Carlisle, and it just didn't work out. So I just feel like Dagnall learned to just lean more on what got him there, and whereas I feel like Carlisle is sort of just like got these like different schemes and ways of attacking the Thunder that I feel like he's emptied the bag, but he just told us that there's still tricks ahead for game 7. So I'm wondering what that looks like. So yeah, I can't wait. I just want to see how Dagnall responds, especially when it comes to his rotations and mixing guys up with Holmgren and Alex Caruso, especially. Do you stick with double big? Because if you look at the way he ended the game 5, I mean, he leans on Caruso, or at least, with Caruso starting the second half most of the time he ends games. So I feel like that lineup with Hartenstein on the bench and Caruso in, with Holmgren and Jalen and SGA and Lou Dort, I just feel like that's sort of been his go-to lineup. So I wonder if he's going to start that way, but who knows, man. I mean, Dagnall could surprise us as well, but I do give the edge to Carlisle. However, you look at these rosters and the history of what the Thunder have been doing all season long, and like the Thunder's starting 5 should get the most out of the Pacers, but who knows, right? And again, I think this game, just like much of the series, the other guys, guys coming off the bench, like Mathurin and TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin, man, what a heck of a game, at least when he's at home. What they've meant to the series, it could really swing game 7, at least going into the fourth quarter, in either team's direction. Now, looking at the Thunder, did we get a big game from Isaiah Joe? Does Aaron Wiggins have another one in him? I think those are some of the question marks. I feel like the Thunder, or at least Dagnall, is definitely looking through going into game 7. Like, who can he rely on? Or who's that one guy who could have a big game? Case and Wallace, and I look at the guards, man. They have a handful of guards, or at least a few of them, that I think one of them's going to pop. One of them's going to have a big game.
Yeah. We still got time. I don't know why they run a shot clock. Hey, listen, this is when I look at the coaching matchup, it feels like we're looking at the NBA equivalent of Yoda versus Luke Skywalker. Luke is nice. Dagnall is nice. He's good. He's really good. But Yoda is coming with some stuff. You'd be like, damn, I didn't know the old man had that in his bag. Damn, where did that come from? How did he know to use this guy in that moment? Rick Carlisle, again, I've talked about him ad nauseum because he's a hell of a coach. When people look at this Indiana team, I think there's some folks who draw some similarities, particularly if they win. They'll say, they're similar to that 04 Pistons team. And here's the funny thing about that 04 Pistons team. That team was coached by Larry Brown. But the foundation was built the year before when they were coached by Rick Carlisle. So even though he didn't get a championship ring, the key elements of one of the great Cinderella stories in the last 25, 30 years in terms of NBA Finals, he was a major architect for that. And when I look at this Pacers team, there are some legitimate comparisons that you can make. They went into this series heavy underdogs. And then when you start watching them play, you're thinking like, damn, they match up really well against this team. There's some things they can do that I'm not sure OKC can neutralize as well as they thought they could. And so now it becomes a game of adjustments. And that's where Yoda is kind of winning the battle with Luke. We'll see if that trend will continue in Game 7. But certainly Rick Carlisle has made this a much more interesting and compelling series than I think it would have been otherwise if you simply just had the talent out there. With that being said, Josue, there has to be a winner. And neither of us knows who the hell that's going to be. But when you look at the Pacers and their chances of winning, what do you see as maybe one or two keys to them pulling off the upset and winning an NBA title?
Man, similar or very similar to what we saw in Game 6. I mean, getting guys involved, 4 or 5, or actually, was it 5 or 6 players scoring double figures? I mean, I could say TJ McConnell, but that's one of the few people I'm worried about. He's going to bring it. So I'm looking at Mathurin, both ends of the floor as well. And I'm wondering if Obi Toppin can bring some of that, home cooking Obi Toppin into the Pacers Center, because I think it goes a really long way. Really stretches the floor. Just makes it hell for this Thunder team. And then you can say the same thing about Miles Turner's offense. He hit some big shots in that Game 1 that allowed these guys to come back and obviously set the stage for Tyrese Halliburton to hit that big shot. So when it comes down to what really bothers the Thunder in the bench players, I'm looking at those two guys, Turner, Mathurin, and again, you don't have to worry about TJ McConnell. He's going to bring it. So being able to hang around, I think, is huge for this team. If they're down by 7 or 8, Thunder leading, that's nothing. I mean, that's essentially the sweet spot if you're the Indiana Pacers, and then you make your run in the fourth quarter. That's the way I see this thing playing out. I don't know if they'll get into a double-digit lead or blowout or something like that, or come close to that. But I think if you hang around, that's what you want to do at this place, the Paycom Center. And I think that's how it happens if the Pacers are to come in here and steal Game 7.
Now, if the Thunder are able to do what you're supposed to do when you win 68 games in the regular season, which is win a damn championship, what do you see as maybe a couple of keys to them, finally putting away this really pesky Pacers team?
It comes back to the defense. I mean, it really does. Collecting stops, stealing that momentum early and often, and just never letting go. I mean, that's how their offense thrives. It really is off of the handful of stops and the going downhill. That's when they go out to the big runs. And
Josue, you had another point you wanted to raise too, right?
Yes, yeah. SGA. I mean, this is the MVP we're talking about. This is the fourth quarter of a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. I mean, I've seen this guy do this so many times throughout the regular season, just closing teams out. Maybe the Thunder have a 6-7 point lead, something like that, going to the fourth. You look up, all of a sudden, they're up by 15-16, and the place is rocking. I mean, that's just been the formula, and I feel like that's if the Thunder are to do this, that's what it's going to look like. It's interesting. Game 4. This team was so close to not only going down 3-1, but essentially just being out of the series. And for the first 4 or 5 minutes of that fourth quarter stint for SGA, he couldn't buy a bucket. And all of a sudden, he just flipped this switch with like 4:35 left, under 5 minutes to go. He scores 15 of the Thunder's last 16 points. I mean, that's just like at its maximum. Like, that's how dangerous SGA can be. But still, like, going into a fourth quarter, game 7, like, I have no doubt that SGA will put this team on his back and take them to the finish line, man. But again, that sweet spot, the Pacers are only down 7, 8 points, 9 points. That's nothing for these guys. So do not be surprised if all of a sudden it's a tie game with a minute left and SGA has to really be that guy to close this thing out. SGA versus Tyrese Halliburton, or however you want to, paint the picture, man. I think that's how it's probably going to look like. I don't know if we'll see a blowout win here for either team. But again, I do have to give the edge to the Thunder and SGA closing the series out.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the goal and expectation, particularly when you work all season long for this opportunity to have a game 7 to win an NBA championship in your building. But as we've seen with the Pacers throughout this playoff run, they don't mind being, spoiling your party. They don't mind crashing into what should be, your celebration and have their own. And this would be for them. This would be the first NBA championship in their franchise's history. What do you think that means to that particular organization to win, not just win game 7, but win an NBA title for the first time ever?
Man, that means you're talking about the Pacers, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That means everything for these guys, man. I really wouldn't be surprised if we see Reggie Miller here, and I can't imagine the last time last time Reggie Miller played, or not even played, excuse me. That was after, right? When's the last time he's ever been in this city? But I think other than the job that he had after he was playing. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Maybe he was on one of those, prime time games or whatever. But like it takes a lot, I would feel like, to get Reggie Miller out here. But this is it. This is the one thing I feel like would do it. Game 7, win or die. Because if the Pacers win, he wants to be there. He has to be there. He's such an important part of their history, and of course, unfortunate part of them coming up short. I mean, the entire roster, the last Pacers team to make the finals and lost to the Lakers, almost the entire team was in the building, for game 6. I mean, that's how important it is. That's how much it means to these guys. And I think it would mean everything. No one predicted this team to be here, and no one, never mind, predicted them to make it this far, but of course, win it all. So, I just think it would be one of the, I hate to use the word Cinderella, but like one of the most unexpected championship runs in NBA history, and I think it would galvanize these guys to come back again, do it again, especially with the way things are with the Celtics and Cavs coming up short. You kind of see this path for these guys to remain competitive next season, but of course they're looking at this right now and being able to steal it right now, giving that chance to steal it, man. This is a golden opportunity for these guys. And again, I expect them to fight to the finish.
Yeah, and obviously a golden opportunity for the Thunder. And even though they have a roster that's one of the youngest that you'll ever see competing at this level with these type of, with something like this at stake, they nonetheless, this will be monumental for them as well. They haven't won a championship since they've been in Oklahoma City. And I guess I have a similar question to the previous one, except with a little bit of a twist. When you think about Oklahoma City Thunder and you think about just kind of iconic players, you obviously think about Durant, you think about Westbrook, you think about James Harden. But I think you probably focus more on Westbrook just because he seems to be the guy that he's kind of the son from the past that's always going to be welcomed here. I remember watching when Denver. Yeah, when Denver played, Oklahoma City in the playoffs, and he come to the game, you would have thought that he was still on the Thunder roster. The kind of love that they showed him, and it was just it was one of the things you're thinking like, well, damn, you do know that he's trying to bust you tonight, right? You do know that he's trying to send you home with an L, but there was that love for him, and I guess my question to you is this: if the Thunder are able to win a championship and SGA continues to just stack up chips after chips, award after award, accolade after accolade, does he become the most beloved Oklahoma City Thunder player ahead of Westbrook?
No question. Absolutely. I think he takes that spot. But right now it's definitely Westbrook still, which is impressive considering how many years have passed since the last time he put on a Thunder uniform, but he's always welcome here. The things that he did in the community, they really welcome him with open arms every single time he's in the city. And the love is twofold. He has so much appreciation for the fan base, and it seems like anytime he's a free agent, they're like, maybe they should bring him back, and people are doing that again going into the offseason, I feel like. And I'm sure it'll come back again as soon as the NBA finals wrap up. But yeah, man, to answer your question, absolutely, 1000%, man. Like the embrace, between the fans and SGA is unmatched, if you ask me, Sherrod. The amount of autographs, and I'm glad the NBA, or maybe it was ESPN, I don't know exactly, but they put that in the forefront of just like how often he does that, because he's been doing that all year long. Like he signs hundreds and hundreds of autographs, and like it's just it's unbelievable when you consider like sometimes they're outside, at the hotel. Sometimes it's not, it's freezing out, and he doesn't care, man. Because he always says that if I can give a fan like a memory that they'll never forget, then sign me up, because I know what it was like to be that kid. And it really does speaks to the kind of guy he is, and the how he sees things from a very mature level. I guess he's one of the older ones of this team, the youngest team in the NBA for sure. I mean, they always rag on Alex Caruso. They talk about his 31 as if it's 41. It's like an ongoing joke, but it really is impressive to see just how mature these guys are. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that so many of them have faced adversity. So many of them weren't even sure if they would ever reach the age, let alone, be in the NBA finals or, carve out an NBA career, which is something that Isaiah Hartenstein talked about, right? Handful of these guys in the G League, some of these guys weren't even drafted, really had to fight their way to stay in the NBA. And when you put all those guys together who want to learn and want to advance and want to grow, this is the finished product, I feel like. And, obviously everyone tips their hat to Mark Dagnall and of course Sam Presti, the architect, if you will, for putting these two together. Two mountains, we call them, right? Because of what he did with those guys that you mentioned, with Durant, Westbrook, Ibaka in those years. Fast forward to 2025, and they're one game away from the NBA, from winning the NBA championship, man. Like the fans here, and they are so excited, anxious, thrilled to see how it all unfolds here at the Paycom Center.
Absolutely. And Josue, you have the fortune of having witnessed the championship run a year ago when you're here in Boston, and now you're witnessing another potential run with the Thunder. And I guess my question to you at this point is, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's your prediction for Game 7?
Man, I'm gonna go with the Thunder, man. I'm gonna go with the Thunder. I don't know, 4-point win, 3-point win, something like that. A huge stop. Pacers fouled them on purpose, and man, everyone is going crazy. I'm seeing it in my head, but again, Sherrod, like the Pacers are that one team, so I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Halliburton in the end, fourth quarter, but of course, his guys got to help him get there, man. They got to help set that stage, like they have the entire postseason. Sure, he's the headline, he's the one doing the Reggie Miller, or he's the his dad is the one getting in Giannis's face after he hits the big shot. However, it was the other guys that got them there. Those 3-point shots, those huge defensive stops. I just think that's how it happens, and I think they have the muscle to pull that off. However, SGA, Thunder here at the Paycom Center, just so dialed in and not letting these guys down, not letting these fans down. I think that gets the edge at the end, at the end of Game 7.
Well, Josue, you and I, we see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we will not see eye to eye on this one.
I knew it. You Carlisle fan.
I am taking the Pacers simply because the Pacers have shown. Well, one, Rick Carlisle, obviously, but also the way.
Yeah, two. How does it happen? I want to hear it. Let me paint a picture.
Here's how I think the Pacers win by like 5. I think they'll win by 5. I think it'll become a free throw shooting game down the stretch. Because this is the thing that, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, and I think I feel it's going to manifest itself in a way in this game that it hasn't up to this point, and that's the youth. This OKC team, from a talent standpoint, I don't think there's much argument that from top to bottom, they have more talent. But I'm telling you now, the heartbreak that the Pacers went through last year and not getting this far when they had, key guys hurt. The fact that they have had to climb an incredibly daunting road to get here. The fact that they have had so many doubters about whether they even belonged in the playoffs, let alone in the finals. It's all galvanized them in a way that has made them a bigger, better, stronger, and frankly, a more dangerous team in a situation like this. They're going to go into this game playing closer to how they would normally play than the Thunder will, simply because they are, in essence, playing with house money. If they lose this game, they're supposed to do that. If the pressure is so heavy on the Thunder, and when you take that pressure, you take that OKC youth, you put that all together, I think you have a team that does not quite meet the moment. And I think the Pacers, conversely, I think they're ready to meet the moment. I think that they've come too far down this road to not finish it off. And whether it's in OKC, in Indiana, in Bangladesh, in Boston, it don't matter the location. I think Indiana is going to win this game, and it's going to be close, but I do think that they're going to make all the plays at both ends of the floor down the stretch to get the win and bring home the first NBA championship for the Indiana Pacers.
Wow, man. That would be crazy. I mean, coming back from Indianapolis, I mean, that place is going to be going wild. Just like the way they celebrated each win, in the streets was impressive. Man, I was joking around with some of these Thunder reporters how we saw like girls dancing outside of the car doors and I saw the car windows and whatnot. And I was like, man, like, yeah, it would be special, man. It'd be special for the city for sure. But again, yeah, down the stretch, I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it again, man. Holmgren is so important for this team and what they want to do. Like that matchup against Siakam, yeah, for sure. But again, and Thunder fans, if you're watching, not get excited over an 8, 9, 10-point lead, man. That's nothing. I don't even think Thunder, the players themselves, will look up and be excited about that because they know what time it is. They know what this team does. They know what happened in game one. So yeah, I mean, it's out to the wire for sure. Either way, 1,000%.
Yeah, and I think that's really the one thing that we definitely agree on is that this game is going to be a close one. It's not going to be a 20, 25, 30-point blowout. Hell, I don't even think the lead for either team will get up to that point. So that's the really good news for those who are watching. And frankly, it's the kind of game that I think you can bring in some of the casual basketball fans who maybe haven't paid a ton of attention to this series, who now that it's at the absolute 11th and a half hour, if you will, you're going to be paying attention to it for sure. Before we get out of here,
I was going to say real quick, Sherrod, I just wonder if it's going to be one of those game sevens like 2010. Man. Sorry, Celtics fans, not to bring it up. I mean, I wasn't happy that night either. But do you remember how like no one can make a bucket? Like, people look back on it being like, oh, but so and so, couldn't get it going. I mean, no one could get it going when you look back at that game, and it just goes to show you that anything can happen in a game seven. And which team, if the shots aren't falling, are still be able to muster up a win, man. And I think this could see something similar. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Maybe not. We'll see.
Well, the one thing that's different in this one is that I thought the pressure was comparable for both teams in 2010. I thought that it didn't feel as though one team was a clear head and shoulders favorite versus over the other. It felt like it could go 60-40 either way. And so because of that, I thought both teams felt a different kind of, but very similar level of pressure to perform. And I thought it showed in the fact that no one could make shots. That ain't going to be the case in this game. If either team gets out to a fast start, it's not going to be because they're feeling comparable pressure. It's because one team's making shots and the other team isn't. I think it's going to be that simple. But bottom line, no matter how you want to cut it or slice it, this is going to be a good game. And I think this is going to be a game that we're going to be talking about for quite some time because either way, you're going to have a franchise in that particular city winning their first NBA title. OKC, they won it back in the late 70s, early 80s when they were in Seattle, but they haven't won it in OKC. And, with the Pacers, they won it back in the ABA days, but not since they've been in the NBA. So there will be a new champion crowned. Sorry, Celtics fans, who will be getting their first. But they're looking at the Celtics like, you do realize y'all got 18, right? So can the Pacers and the Thunder get a one of these chips?
For real. And you know what? You know who's on that Sonics team too, right? DJ, right? Then it's jumped on that Sonics team, I believe. So there you go. Some Celtics history in there.
Exactly. So before we get out of here, I just want to give another quick shout out to our good friends at Prizepicks, which is the America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So definitely, check that out. And also, while you're checking things out, don't forget that for those of you who are listening to the show, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. And for those who are watching it on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. And again, make sure you turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. For my good friend Josue of Clutch Points and part of the CLNS Media Network family, I'm Sherrod Blakely, and this is the Big 3 NBA Podcast. We out.